RuneScape officially has a new owner. It's been only a few days and the rumor mill is full of players concerned about microtransactions, the game-changing direction, and greedy investors ruining the company. We're going to take a look at this new owner and determine, should we be scared for old school RuneScape's future and Jagex in general? Quick disclaimer, what I'm about to discuss is by no means facts. We have no way of knowing what's going on internally, so I'll be analyzing the news post about the sale, some of the company's history, Jagex's history, and what I personally think they might do. This is actually the second time Jagex has changed hands this year. The previous owner was a United States-based holding firm called MacArthur Fortune Holding, who acquired Jagex in May 2020 for $530 million US. It actually turned out that MacArthur is a shell corporation of their previous owner. A Chinese venture capital firm called Shanghai Fukong purchased it in 2016 for $300 million US. Before purchasing Jagex, their parent company, Shandong Hongda, was primarily a mining and construction company. Now, in January of 2021, we have Jagex's new owner, the Carlyle Group, a US-based private equity firm established in 1987. There's no public figure for what Jagex sold for yet, but it's believed to be more than the $530 million it previously sold for. Now, what exactly is the Carlyle Group? I mentioned previously they're a private equity firm, but what does that mean? To keep it very simple, they buy companies that aren't traded on things like the stock exchange. They grow and restructure the company and then usually sell it off later for a big profit. These guys are good at what they do. They manage over $230 billion worth of assets and have connections all over the globe. They've invested in things like Supreme, Dunkin' Donuts, Vans, and well, they have made a lot of money off of war. Let's take a look at their most recent success story. They bought a 50% stake in the clothing brand Supreme for $500 million in 2017. The company then sold it in November of 2020 for $2.1 billion. So since they owned a 50% share, Carlyle essentially doubled their money. Now, Supreme itself has always been a small secretive streetwear company. They're anti-establishment, grungy, and love skateboarding. Well, at least they were anti-establishment. The big question is, did Carlyle ruin Supreme trying to earn a profit? Depending on who you ask, yes or no. Carlyle purchased Supreme right after Supreme's huge collaboration with Louis Vuitton, a massive peak for the brand. The entire world was going insane trying to get their hands on these pieces of clothing. It objectively hasn't been as popular since then. Many longtime Supreme fans believe that the brand has gone downhill since then. Others think it's better than ever, and some people think that it was going downhill long before the Louis Vuitton collaboration and the 50% stake from Carlyle. Some put the blame on Carlyle, others criticize the designers. The main point I'm trying to get across is it's all just opinion. Carlyle didn't do anything that crazy in terms of the public eye. Supreme is more or less still the same brand as when they purchased it and when they sold it. I don't know how their financials look because Supreme isn't a public company, but they're likely not going anywhere for a long time. Now, this leads me back to Jagex. Will Carlyle ruin old school RuneScape with something like microtransactions? Let's look at the official news post from Jagex's website. Phil Manzel, the CEO of Jagex, essentially says he's excited to be teaming up with Carlyle. Carlyle believes in Jagex and wants to accelerate their multi-year growth strategy, expand team sizes for both RuneScape 3 and Old School, as well as build new games in the RuneScape universe. Patrick McCarter, a managing director at Carlyle, says how impressed they are with Jagex's strong track record, as well as the team's experience and passion for the game. Michael Wand, another managing director, says they'll be using Carlyle's full resources to support Phil and his team. We believe with further investment and innovation, Jagex can build on its position as one of the most exciting video game developers for both existing and new generations of MMORPG players. Now, what does that all mean? We really do not have a lot to go off of here, but we can take some educated guesses. First of all, do I think Carlyle is going to force microtransactions into Old School? Well, probably not. And I have a few good reasons. First of all, Jagex is a drop in the bucket for Carlyle. It's not even 1% of their equity. Jagex has been growing on its own, making more and more profit each year, and for the first time ever last year, Old School made more money than RuneScape 3. Based on what I can find, this is really Carlyle's first venture into the video game market. So I imagine they're going to keep people that know what they're doing at the wheel. Chances are they're just going to use their assets and their connections to try and grow the game and the company and not mess with its foundations. If I'm reading into it right, they just care that they're earning profits and those profits are increasing year after year, which is what's happening already. Phil also mentioned that Carlyle is helping them expand the RuneScape franchise with new games in the RuneScape universe. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a shift in focus at Jagex in the future to these unannounced games. However, Jagex has never had any success creating games that aren't RuneScape or old school RuneScape, which are really just the same game. A few examples of their failed projects are MechScape, FunOrb, Stellar Dawn, Transformers Universe. The list just goes on and on. Carlyle could maybe give Jagex the resources to really get the next game off the ground. But the bottom line is, we know there's at least one new RuneScape theme game in the works. Leaked footage of it has been out for a while, and it sounds promising, but we'll see what happens. Who knows, by franchise expansion, it could also mean just getting the game on more platforms, like gaming consoles. A market that Jagex has seemingly wanted to enter a couple times in the past. But what about microtransactions? They're the easiest way to increase old school RuneScape's profit, right? In the short run, yes. The long run, no way. Players know, the dev team knows, and even upper management knows that microtransactions would kill old school almost immediately, especially when players are already unhappy with things like support or game issues. Like the upcoming blowpipe nerf is still all you see being talked about on the 2007scape subreddit, nearly a week after its announcement. Players smell even a hint of microtransactions and go absolutely ballistic. Remember when Jagex attempted to bring partnerships with other companies to old school RuneScape? The poll about it failed, with over 70% of players voting no. Let's go back to the Supreme example. A huge reason Supreme is popular is because their clothes are very limited. Every time Supreme comes out with new clothing, it's gone by the end of the day. The more popular pieces are gone in less than a minute, like their most iconic piece of clothing, the box logo t-shirt. Let's say normally every year they release 10,000 box logo t-shirts that sell out in less than a minute. If they bump that up to 100,000 or even 1 million, that would likely be their most profitable year ever. People want these shirts so bad they're willing to pay 3, 4, even 5 times the retail price. Really just for a piece of cloth with a logo on it. But if Supreme did that, the next year, nobody would care about whatever shirt they release next. The brand survives on being limited. It's not supposed to be something that everybody can get their hands on. Old school RuneScape survives on the players being in control of what happens to the game. A huge appeal is that 99% of what goes into the game is decided by polls sent out to the players. Past investors have pushed Jagex for years to add microtransactions to the game, to basically go behind the players' backs. Ex-Mod Matt K, the old lead of the old school team, said they were constantly under pressure from Fukong, but they never added it. Matt K even commissioned a study before he left and proved to the team that microtransactions in old school would be catastrophic, without a doubt. Now, what about RuneScape 3? Surprisingly enough, the game is seeing a decent rise in player count lately. It's almost back up to the same amount of players it had in 2013. If Carlyle is going to push microtransactions, I wouldn't be shocked if that was done in RS3. It already has a lot of them, but if old school is off limits, I think you could see where this is going. So what's my conclusion? We don't know what Carlyle is going to do with Jagex. This is all guesswork. But personally, I don't think there's any red flags yet. This is just another new investor. They know the company history. They know what happened when microtransactions were added to RS3. So really all we can do is sit back and enjoy the ride. Obviously they're after profits, but adding microtransactions would tank old school and they'd likely lose more money than they could gain. So for now, there's hopefully no need to fearmonger. This is likely just another firm passing through hoping to make some money. Personally, I think this is a huge step up from a Chinese mining company and their shell corporation. All I can recommend now is to keep a close eye on those leaving and joining Jagex. Maybe look at what positions Jagex has available and see who's being fired or quitting. It's an easy way to maybe see what direction Jagex is taking without them actually telling us. Anyway, funnily enough, I have a theory that Jagex's old investors wanted old school RuneScape to fail. And the reasoning is a little shocking. You can check that video out on screen right now.